Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm 18 and I'm from New York. I don't have a job and I don't have my license or my permit, but I don't think it's fair that 16 and 17-year-olds can be 17. 16 and 17-year-olds can be taxed by the government when they haven't even when they have no say in the government, because like if they have a job and their paycheck is being taxed, they didn't help to choose the people in power or the people who are deciding where their money goes or like what it's used for, and they have no say in any of that. So it's like they're not being represented, but they're still being taxed. So like that's not fair. Like they shouldn't have their money taken away by a government that they had no say in whatsoever. Like they didn't get to help decide anything. Like they didn't help decide who was taking their money from them, so they shouldn't have their money taken away from them. So if they're not given the right to choose those people and like that decide what happens to their money, or like those people that are taking their money away from them, they shouldn't have their money taken away from them. I do think that people that are 16-year-olds should be able to vote, because I don't think that age is what really matters. I think it matters how informed you are. And there can be 16-year-olds that are much more informed than some adults. Like if there was a way to measure how educated you are in politics, I'm sure a lot of people would be angry about like half the voting population having a say in the vote, because they probably know nothing or like next to nothing about like what they're voting for or like who they're voting for. But I'm sure that there are a lot of 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds that do know all about this kind of stuff, but they have no say in it, and a lot of them know a lot more than some adults. So I do think that 16 and 17-year-olds that if they were granted the right to vote, I think that they would vote. And like the voting, the turnout for younger voters has increased a lot in the past like few years, and I think it'll keep increasing. And if 16 and 17-year-olds were allowed to vote, I'm sure that at least some of them would come out to vote. And even if it was only like 3 people that came out to vote that were 16 and 17, it shouldn't matter, because if they're informed American citizens, then they should have the right to have a say in the government that like in the people that govern them. And just because they're younger than a lot of other people doesn't mean that they don't have rights and they don't have anything to say or they don't know what they're talking about. So I mean, even if it was like a tiny percentage of the people of those ages coming out to vote, it wouldn't matter. I mean, like, they want to have a say, so let them have a say. I mean, like, even if a lot of them don't come, that's fine. But I'm sure that a lot of them would come, because I'm sure that a lot of them will want to take advantage of the opportunity and vote. I mean, do their duty as a citizen, right? So, I think that 16 and 17-year-olds are definitely educated enough to vote. I mean, like, for example, in my school, we do this thing called the election simulation every year. It's basically it's like a mock election, like based off of the real election during election season. So this year I did it because I'm a senior. So it's in the beginning of the year because it's during election season. So basically everyone's 17 that's doing this. I was 17 when I did it, and basically everyone else is 17 too. So what it is that like we do it's kind of like a role play of the real election, where like there are students that like play the part of like the real candidates. So this year it was the president, so there was like Obama, there was a Romney, and then like there were other like minor elections too that went on. And then there are people who run their campaign, like there are campaign managers. That's students who are campaign managers and students who are on the campaigns. And then every Friday there's a TV show and a radio show. So there are students that produce and direct the TV show and the radio show. and film it, and or are reporters on the TV show or the radio show. And so they get to learn about like how media affects elections, and like how the media portrays different candidates, and like what tactics the media uses to influence elections. And they get to interview the candidates on their shows and like cover all the events. Like there's like a rally, like a rally where all the candidates give speeches, and then there's also a presidential debate that is done in front of the whole school, or like not only presidential, but whatever candidates are running, there's a debate that's done in front of the whole school where they're asked questions and they have to respond like a real debate, except that it's like the students in my school who are portraying these candidates. And then the candidates go on the TV show or the radio show and they're interviewed, and they have to be informed on like who their candidate is and what their stances are on different issues. So they have to know about these issues so that they can talk about them on the shows, and they have to know about the other candidates' issue, like stances on issues too, so they can talk about that too, because they need to know all of this stuff. And then if you're not in the media and you're not a candidate or on a campaign, then you're an interest group. You're part of an interest group. So I was part of an interest group this year. So what it is like the real special interest groups in real life, where there are some conservative and some liberal, and they basically like you have to learn about your like what your interest group stands for, what candidates they back, and like you have to like support your candidate and your causes, not even necessarily your candidate, but your causes, like what your interest group stands for. Like the Sierra Club has to like advocate for like greener green living and like environmental like helping the environment and things like that. And then the interest groups and the campaigns have to do fundraisers, because we have this fake money called SimBucks, which is what we use in the simulation. So every student in the school gets SimBucks, and they can use, and then the candidates and the the campaigns and the interest groups can have fundraisers like bake sales and things like that to raise money for their campaign or their interest group. And with the money you can buy like airtime on the radio show, or like airtime on the TV show, and you can make commercials, or you can pay to have your posters hung up all over the school. And then at the end of the simulation, the whole school, all the students, so all the underclassmen, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, even 14-year-olds, all of them, like after watching the TV show, going to the debates, listening to the radio show, they get to vote for which candidate they think should be the next president or mayor or whatever the election is for that year. They get to vote, and then a lot of times it does mirror the real election, and like the students become really well informed. Like especially if you're doing the simulation, you become really well informed on how the political process works. I mean, like as a 17-year-old, I knew more about the political process than my parents. I mean, like I tried to explain how it worked to them, and they barely understood what I was saying, but like through doing this, I learned it like really easily. And also, I think that people can be informed in other ways, like especially young people like want to learn, like they like to learn and like discover new things. And like I feel like at a certain point, like when people like get older, like they kind of just become disinterested in like the other point of view. Like younger people will absorb everything, and they'll look at both sides of an argument, and they'll want to learn as much as they can. I mean, I know me specifically, I want to learn as much as I can about the issues that I'm interested in. And a lot of times with social media, I think it helps people get informed really, really easily. Like I've never gone onto a social networking website specifically looking for some political articles to read, but I've come across them and I've read them, and I've been like, wow, this is really interesting, and then maybe read more about it and become really informed on the issues. And like just through coincidence like that, I can like know all about a certain issue that I never thought I would even be interested in before. And like young people are really like open to learning all these new things, and they're really open-minded, And like I think that that's a good thing to have in a person who like who's going to vote for the next president or Congress member or mayor or city council member. I mean, it doesn't really matter what they're voting for. I mean, it's important to be informed. And I think that young people can definitely be informed. There are some restrictions placed on like 16, 17-year-olds, especially to do with driving. Like, I know that in New York, if I were 17 and I wanted to get my license, I would have to take driver's ed. I have to pay for driver's ed, a state-sanctioned driver's ed, and then get my permit, and then wait a long time, like a year, I think, to get my license. But if I'm 18 now, I don't have to take driver's ed at all. I can just take my test and get my permit. And like in New Jersey, how 17-year-old drivers have to have a red sticker on their license until like if they're 17. But like I understand where like the rationale behind it, but I don't think it makes sense specifically, because I don't think that age is really what matters. I think it's like experience. So I think that I would be more comfortable driving with a 17-year-old driver who has been learning how to drive since they were 15 and knows really well how to drive and has been driving ever since they turned 17 than with a 25-year-old driver that just got their license yesterday and didn't know how to drive like a week ago. I mean, it doesn't really matter how old you are. It matters how experienced you are, in my opinion, on issues like that. So I think that those rules are kind of unfair. I mean, I can understand why they're put in place, but I think it would make more sense to have rules like you have to have a red sticker on your license if it's your first year as a driver, rather than like if you're 17. I think it makes more sense that way.